Hello and welcome. We are pleased to have you join our podcast as we discuss the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is an ongoing crisis stemming from the formation of Israel and its occupation of Palestinian land. Since the formation of the State of Israel, millions of lives have been fundamentally altered as a result. In particular, the role that children have played in the conflict has evolved over time. In this podcast, we hope to take a deeper dive into how children's lives have been impacted by the conflict and how their roles have changed. We also intend to focus on how their childlike innocence has been portrayed.
Throughout the early 20th century, there were several key events that escalated tensions between the Jews and Arabs in the Israel-Palestine area. Finally, in 1947, the UN approved a partition plan to effectively split Palestine into a Jewish and Arab state. Subsequently, in May of 1948, the Israeli government was officially an independent state.
Upon the formation of the State of Israel, the Nakba, Arabic for catastrophe, was a violent and gruesome attempt by Israeli militias to expel an estimated 750,000 from the State of Israel. The displacement of Palestinians during the Nakba was a traumatic experience that uprooted the lives and resulted in the loss of homes, lands, and communities.
The experience of children during the Nakba was especially traumatic as they were caught up in the violence and displacement that ravaged the communities. Muhammad Halah's recollection of the Nakba through a teenager's eyes highlights first-hand accounts of children during the Nakba. These experiences depict a youthful innocence that has been shaped by the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Halaj recounts one experience, saying, "After the school bombing, I remember very clearly thinking to myself, I'm going to the hospital in Haifa to see bodies so I will remember. At the hospital, I saw corpses of at least half a dozen children laid out on stone slabs. I don't think any of them was more than 10 years old." Once Israel became an independent state, lives changed for Palestinians. Being born in the heart of the Nakba couldn't have been easy for anyone. Palestinians born prior to the State of Israel have known nothing but violence and heartache. These children were the first people born in a new wave of violence, and as a result, it shaped their perceptions of the conflict and their future attitudes towards peace and resolution.
The children of the Nakba era watched as the world around them changed drastically overnight. The world of peace and innocence that they once knew was stripped away from them upon the formation of the State of Israel. In the source we just discussed, the author witnessed the corpses of children laying in the hospital.
Over time, this childlike innocence that had once possessed developed into a deepening hatred for the other side and the acceptance of and active participation in the violent conflict itself. While the children may have not complete understanding of the complexity of the conflict, their actions and experiences have been corrupted and eventually filled with malice.
In more modern times, the role of children has evolved from innocent passive observers to playing a more active role in the conflict.
In the film Bridge Over Wadi, there's a scene where some young boys discuss how they're going to join the army when they're older, and they have to bomb and commit violent acts against other people. It is interesting to see how most of the children think that joining the army is about killing innocent people and not about protecting people and making peace. The dialogue goes back and forth with the boys debating the topic and what is expected when they grow up.
One scene highlights a Jewish boy saying, "We shouldn't kill anybody. We are all people. We all live on earth." The dialogue continues with another boy saying, "But in the army, you don't have to. You only protect your country. You don't bomb anyone without reason." Throughout the dialogue, we gain a perspective that while the children are in some ways naive and lack wrongdoing, they have an understanding of the conflict and the violence that they will be expected to commit once they're old enough.
Another important factor to discuss, and this has especially become prevalent in recent times, is how the different armies treat children. The Israeli army does everything they can to protect children. They'll drop leaflets, they'll even call them ahead of time and say, "Hey, we're going to be in this area," doing everything they can to protect the innocent. They try to stop the innocent people from being there with a bomb strike. On the flip side, Hamas has very different views towards children, whereas they'll fire rockets indiscriminately into Israel. Along with that, they have no issue using children as human shields and making the army's job much tougher to work with.
In another modern documentary, To Die in Jerusalem, the children involved have gone far beyond just acceptance of their role. Instead of merely accepting the fact that they will one day be involved in the warfare itself, one 16-year-old Palestinian girl takes it one step further by executing a suicide bombing that kills her and an Israeli girl.
In the film, President George W. Bush responds to this attack by saying, when an 18-year-old Palestinian girl is induced to blow herself up and in the process kills a 17-year-old Israeli girl, the future itself is dying. The future of the Palestinian people and the future of the Israeli people.
So you see, with things like that, it puts both sides in a really tough spot because it kind of lowers the trust they would have with both sides. And if you're an Israeli parent, you're probably, after seeing something like this, less likely to want your children to hang around a Palestinian and vice versa. The sense of segregating the two groups and putting them more in camps and having these children commit acts of violence here really lessens the chance of the two groups working together in the future.
Innocence is a hard term to define, especially in the case of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We looked specifically at how innocent children's roles have changed during the conflict. We explored how, in the beginning of the Nakba, children were victims of loss and displacement. We then highlighted the shift in our historical narrative, the moment children lost their innocence. From there, the children became more than passive observers. They became active participants. Over time, hatred has formed, and the children have accepted that they will become militant participants going forward. In short, the children have lost their innocence as a result of growing up around constant warfare and violence.